So now we move into topic 6, which is looking at the psychology of learning and the performance of physical skills. So to start off, we're looking at goal setting. So they understand the function of goal setting, understand the application of the different types of goals and their characteristics. So when we're going to questions we're going to ask, what is the goal? What are they used for? And are all goals the same? So when we're goal setting, we've got to look at the goal being the target or the focus set by the skill learner to aim for. So when we're thinking about what we're striving for and the purpose for doing that skill, we need to be having a goal to be able to focus that learner's attention to what has to be done, to provide that learner with reasoning and give that learner impetus for persistence and perseverance. So, different types of goal setting methods are available. Two types are task goals and outcome goals. Task goals being where the athlete or the learner sets their own goals by a level of performance standards particularly and desire to improve them. For example, the player wanting to improve their skill level to play A grade rather than B grade. Where outcome goals are set by the learner or athlete based on the competition with others and comparing themselves against others. So, for example, a player wants to make them the state A grade so they can then be picked for the state team. Okay, so expert believes that task goals are more important than outcome goals because they encourage a mastery of the skill. They encourage learners to select realistic, semi-difficult tasks that they can handle. They allow them to compare in relation to ability, develop more persistence, and help people fear failure less and promote greater work ethic. So when we're so key factors when setting the goals and the goal setting successfully includes things like where the goals should be measurable, they should be realistic, they should be accepted by all those setting them, so coach, team or athlete. They need to be related to the outcome of learning and related to performance and developed to maintain and improve performance. So when we're looking at something that's measurable, they've got to understand that can we actually measure whether you've achieved them or not? If they're related to performance, so you've got to look at a cricketer, you've got to have something that's related to that cricket skill. It can't be something that's separate from that. Okay, so we use the acronym SMART. All right, so we'll go through that acronym. So specific, so the goals must be clear and well defined, know what they needs to be achieved. If they're vague, they won't provide enough direction. They need to show the way to achievement. Measurable, they need to set dates or targets. They need to allow the opportunity to celebrate when you've achieved that goal. They need to be attainable, so they need to be able to be reached. So me setting a goal saying I want to be able to get to the Olympics, is that attainable at the moment? If I had the right genetic makeup and the right skill set, I could potentially get there, but I'd have to set goals within that to achieve first. Realistic yet challenging need to be part of that as well. So they also need to be relevant. So they need to be developed in relation to or set in relation to a level of achievement or mastery. So where do you want to be, and allow the learner to stay focused and move towards those goals. And there needs to be a target. So there has to be a deadline within that. That allows for you to be able to celebrate the achievement and that arrival of that goal. So setting the deadline increases the need for urgency and allows the end result to be achieved faster, which can then also increase motivation. So once we've achieved those goals, we need to continually set new goals to allow for improvement. It's no good just achieving one and then plateauing. The reason we improve is because we set new goals that we can achieve. And then we need to review. So say if it took too long to achieve, make the next goal easier. If it was too easy, set the next goal harder, all those sorts of things. All right, so case study here. Junior school 800-metre runner wants to compete in the State Junior Track Championships for high school in 3 weeks' time. So the best 2 runners in the final will be selected for national championships. They have set themselves the goal to make the national team. The student recently ran an 800-metre race in 2 minutes, 24 seconds, but the personal best of 2 minutes, 15 seconds. The student and the coach believe it will take a run of 2 minutes and 10 seconds to make the top 2 of the high schools meet. Is this goal realistic? Well, their personal best is only 5 seconds above So, to reduce the time by 5 seconds is a challenge in 21 days. Provide them with an incentive, but the goal is unrealistic given the short time for preparation. Identify the factors that may prevent the athlete from achieving their goal. If the task and the process becomes too demanding and the athlete realises they can't achieve it, they may lose focus or interest. So they may injure themselves from pushing too hard. Explain whether the goal is task or outcome oriented. The outcome oriented as it focuses on the end result. So it's not about improving the skill, it's about meeting that outcome. The time needed to get the nationals. At no stage in the story does the athlete contemplate the process of how to get there and whether it's achievable. Alright. What you need to do now is pause and answer questions on page, it's meant to be 232 and 233. Alright, so the next part we're looking at is anxiety, arousal, and performance. So looking at the key ideas, there's a theory of arousal and the complexity of tasks that involve with arousal and anxiety and how that's going to impact on performance during competition and how we can, the coaching technique can be affecting the learner and the performance. So, what is anxiety? Anxiety is that psychological issue impacting on our normal psychological, mental, or physiological function of the body. This is due to the uncertain or the fear of experiencing the event that's about to undertake. So, things that this can impact. So, anxiety, in fact, interferes with how information is processed. So, negative thoughts take up thinking space, usually used for tactical thoughts. Anxiety can increase arousal. And arousal in turn affects performance. If we become over-aroused because of anxiety, that can impact our cue recognition, our selective attention. It could also lift us from being under-aroused to appropriately aroused. So it can have a negative or a positive impact in that context. So essentially, anxiety is promoted or enhanced by two elements. So the perceived demands of the skill, so the learner sees what they're required to do and think it might be too hard or too difficult, or the perceived capability, so the learner feels their abilities are not up to the level to complete that task or exercise set. So we've all felt that level of anxiety where we're unsure whether we can compete at that level, or if we can complete that skill appropriately. Are people going to laugh at us? Are we going to win or not win? And that's what causes us to have that anxiety, and that's a normal feeling. So if it occurs at 3 levels, so cognitive level, where it affects the learner's thoughts and thinking processes, at the somatic level, where it affects the learner's physical state, and the behavioural level, where it affects the learner's behaviour or how they act. So, not all effects are negative. We can see here the 3 areas that are outlined below. So the cognitive, so it has the confusion, fear, forgetfulness, negative thoughts, poor concentration. The somatic, where it increases the heart rate, the respiratory rate, the sweating, the clammy hands, dry mouth, and the nausea. And behavioural, so introvertedness, biting fingernails, avoiding eye contact, fidgeting, poor posture, and repetitive body movements. So arousal occurs at different intensities. So is the intensity related to the arousal that affects performance? And you can see below. So we can see that low arousal, that's a sleep or calm activity, or that high arousal, that high excitement, and the moderate arousal, which falls in the middle. So the theories of arousal is the optimal arousal achieved when the ability to complete the task is at its highest. So it's based on the activity being completed in relation to the ability of the learner, and many theories describe the effect of different arousal and performance, including the drive theory, so it's associated with being at a high level of arousal or psyched up. The catastrophe theory associated with the effect of stress on performance, so which is difficult to predict. So the most common way of predicting the effect of the stress on performance is called our inverted U hypothesis. So we can see here it shows a relationship between the arousal and performance in the shape of an upside down U. So we can see as we increase our level of arousal and the level of performance up the axis, and we get to an optimum level at that medium where our performance is heightened. So we can see that zone of arousal and that optimal arousal decreases either side of that zone. Now, Arousal varies with particular skill. So some skills require a great deal of control, so they might have a lower level of arousal, where other skills might have a great deal of force required, gross motor skills, and they might have that higher level of optimal arousal. So that can shift based on that. So we can see here the graph outlines the optimal level of performance here is reflecting in a low level of arousal. So that might be a sport, say, as billiards or darts or pistol shooting, where you need to be quite calm. Where here we can see that high level of arousal. So that this might be a more gross movement where, say, a weightlifter, they need to be able to release all this force and strength, so they need a higher level of arousal to be really pumped up and excited to be able to have their optimum level of performance. It's a bit of a case study here. So looking at two gymnasts preparing for a competition, the coach wanted them both to perform this trick. One of the gymnasts had tried the trick successfully several times before. The other had only tried it a couple of times and hurt her ankle on landing. So let's think about on this arousal curve that indicate where the arousal level of the gymnast who hurt their ankle might be. So we can see that she would probably be suffering from higher levels of anxiety in relation to the uncertainty of her being able to perform that skill. And if she's got that high level of anxiety and over-arousal, her optimum level of performance is going to be hindered, where the athlete that has done the trick successfully would be calm in that moderate level of arousal that's going to optimise her performance. So that's what we explained just there. So what you need to do is pause and look at page 239 to do the questions associated there. So now we'll look at visualization, understand the function of visualization and the application used in our skill learning. So what is it? We're looking at involving practice of rehearsal and performing a skill with mental imagery. So using that guided imagery of mental rehearsal. So this can be done either internally or used from external sources such as sports psychologists. So it can be used for many outcomes, as we can see on the right here. It can be used to refocus, to see and visualize success, which then in turn would help motivate, to be able to perfect skills and technique and facilitate the learning and refinement of that skill, to also familiarize yourself with those skills and to set the stage for performance. So we can use this through a cognitive or technical forum, so where that visualization technique that focuses on the technique or the technical aspects of that skill, or for the psychological or motivational aspect, so which is the visualization technique that focuses on the motivational aspect of performing in competition or dealing with anxiety. So here we can see, combined with relaxation, it promotes and alleviates stress, promotes rest and recovery, also increases the sense of positivity and promotes a sense of calm before the competition or the event. So self-talk helps focus the role of purpose of visualization. It usually involves affirmations, so statements that are positive, short and simple, which allows for focus on positive performance outcomes. So with relaxation, it promotes and alleviates stress, rest and recovery, recuperation, increases sense of positivity and a sense of calm, which again then relates to controlling that level of arousal. So here we can see the pool players playing a successful at a high level competition. The shot they're playing will win the game if completed successfully. So we can there use visualization, and you can pause that and read that answer. The same here, just because we're running out of time. So what you need to do is make sure you're answering the questions and reading through the text on page 240 and 41. And then complete those so we can discuss them in class.